Hey there, friend. Didn't see you come in. Hi, I'm Kreestin. Nice to meet you. Uh, that's my shtick. That's how I start these things. So, like I said, I'm Kreestin, or Kreestin, if you will, and it's nice to meet you. This video is going to be my 2019 top 10 games of the year, and that's not to say that I think that these are the best games and that no other game was better than them. These are just 10 carefully curated games that I played that I liked the most. And I wanted to share my list with the world because if there's two things I love in this world, it's video games and lists. If you had me pick one, like which was my favorite, which one's my favorite child, it'd probably be lists, but video games are very, very up there. I do love me some video games. So just a little background. I'm used to recording these types of video game talks in more of a podcast format. So this is my first time ever recording something specifically for YouTube. So I'm sorry for any weird hiccups along the way, but I'm trying to put a lot of care into this product and I hope it comes out fine and I hope you guys enjoy it, but I'm definitely open to any feedback, parentheses, asterisk, footnote, constructive feedback. If you have it, let me know. So for starters, I just want to lay out these are all of the games that came out in 2019 officially and that I played in 2019. So there's a couple here and there that I know were Steam Early Access before 2019, but that's why I'm saying officially. These are the official releases of 2019 that I got around to. Some of them I played more than others. Some of them I barely touched. And you might notice that there's a few big names missing out of there, so I didn't get to rank those. And there are a couple of games that I wanted to play, like Sekiro, that I just didn't get around to. I was too scared to try Sekiro because I'd never played a Souls-type game. And then I played Jedi Fallen Order for the first time. And now I feel really confident that I could play Sekiro, but it's too late. It's too late to include it in my 2019 list. So, if only time machines were real. So, just to get started, I wanted to knock out one or two big things, I guess I should say, out of the way. Anybody who's here who knows me and knows my video game preferences knows that a couple of games came out this year that I was very excited for and you would expect to be on my list, but I wanted to slap in a special segment here early on called Biggest Disappointments. And those two games were Kingdom Hearts 3 and The Legend of Bumbo. I love Kingdom Hearts and I love Binding of Isaac, so I was excited for both of these games to come out, and then both of them just shit all over my soul. So I won't be talking about either of these games. For Kingdom Hearts 3, I thought about talking about it more in depth, but I feel like I've already talked it out to death, and also I didn't feel like plugging in my PS4 to my capture card to get any footage of it. And I decided that, maybe I will talk about Legend of Bumbo a little bit. Let's fire it up and capture some footage. And this is as far as I got. So we'll just leave it at these games disappointed me. And we'll leave the negativity out of this video. That'll be for another video some other time, I guess. So again, the games that I played in all of 2019, keep in mind that there might be minor spoilers for any of these games throughout this video, just in the form of footage or like feedback that I have on the game. So if you are deathly afraid of spoilers for any of these games, be careful. You've been warned. Nothing major for any of them, though. I wouldn't do that to you, baby. I wouldn't do that to you. So, without further ado, let's just hop right into this list. Oh man, it's so nerve-wracking. Every time you get to your list, it's like, did I pick the right 10 games? Like, I feel like in 2 weeks I'm going to change my mind and this won't be my list anymore. But anyways, enough wavering, enough wishy-washiness. My number 10 pick was Cadence of Hyrule. So, in case you don't know what Cadence of Hyrule is, it's basically a mashup of Crypt of the Necrodancer and The Legend of Zelda. And I love Crypt of the Necrodancer, and I am so bad at Crypt of the Necrodancer. So, I'm also kind of bad at Legend of Zelda games, but then somehow putting these two games together made it, not that either of them were unenjoyable because I like both of those games a lot, but it made it even more enjoyable, and I was somehow kind of better at the combined version of both of those games than I am at either of those video games separately. So I think I was at a bit of an advantage, as is anybody who's played Crypt of the Necrodancer. To play it beforehand puts you ahead of someone who may not know the mechanics of Crypt of the Necrodancer, because they kind of, if I had to give it one critique, it would be that they do kind of just drop you in there and expect that you know how Crypt of the Necrodancer works, which luckily I did. But I could see how if someone didn't understand it, they might have gotten a little frustrated at first. But there's a lot of improvements that it comes with. The Zelda mechanics that they tie in that really impressed me, which were, you don't lose necessarily everything that you gathered along the way. Like, you keep your heart upgrades, you keep some of the weapons that you find, you keep your key items and things like that, and your map discovery. And I liked all that because it took a lot of the gut punch out of, I love roguelikes, don't get me wrong. You might find out that I really like them throughout this list. But it sometimes the gut punch of losing a run in a game like that is really, it just makes you shut off the game and never go back to it again, or not go back to it for months. But I feel like in Cadence of Hyrule, they really take a lot of that out, and with the improvements that they've made to make it more accessible and more friendly to a wider audience. And I mean, who would I be without mentioning the music? Obviously, the music for this game is great. It had to be, because that's what they were hinging this entire game on. So, for me, Cadence of Hyrule, it was a very fun game. I liked it a ton, and I have to admit, I'm sorry, I didn't finish it. There's a few games in this list that I didn't actually finish, but I still really, really appreciated. And this is one of them. I love Cadence of Hyrule. If you like rhythm games, if you like roguelikes, if you like Zelda, if you like any of those things separately, you think maybe there's a hint that you would like one of them combined, two of them combined, all three of them combined, I think you should try it out. It also has a cool thing where you could play as either Link or Zelda. I played as Link, but I watched my friend play as Zelda, and you start in a little bit of different places, so there's a little mixed experience for you, So, hey, that's my recommendation. Go play Cadence of Hyrule. Pick Link or Zelda. Tell me who you like better, I guess. I used to say these types of things as jokes when I recorded this for like a podcast type format. I'm sorry I'm rambling. But now when I actually have a comment section, it feels really hokey and cheesy, and I'm sorry. Because I'm used to making these jokes. Anyways, that's Cadence of Hyrule, my number 10 game of 2019. Moving on, my number 9 game is Tetris 99. Again, if you are familiar with me, or if this is your first time here, there's one thing that you should know about me, and that is I fucking love Tetris. I love Tetris. I love Tetris. I love Tetris. I always have. I always will. I spent every waking moment of computer classes in high school just playing Tetris instead of doing work. One of my first Game Boy games was Tetris. Every time they put out a version of it for any console, I almost always buy it. I loved Tetris Effect. So when they announced that there was going to be a free game, a Battle Royale Tetris, a lot of people rolled their eyes when they heard Battle Royale Tetris. But me, my eyes lit up like a cartoon character who just saw an expensive jewel in a museum. I was like, cha-ching! Tetris 99, that's for me. So I love it. I mean, basically it's just Battle Tetris, but you're up against 98 other people, and they're all sending blocks at you, you're sending blocks back, and your goal is to get to number 1, which I have done a whopping number of 1 time. So, I mean, there's not too much to say about it because it's Tetris, it's Battle Tetris. There are a few things that I like namely the fact that it's free, and you can buy an expansion pack, which I did because I'd like to play it offline as well, where you can just play normal marathon Tetris, and it comes with a couple of other modes as well. I think like some local co-op, but I don't really remember. They've added a few things too since launch. Like now you can, maybe these things were there, but I don't believe they were. You can like earn tickets by doing certain tasks, and then you can unlock different themes like just backgrounds and things like that. I learned when I won my first game that there's an Invictus mode, which is for people who've won only. And the only thing that's a bummer about that is that it's not as populated as the normal mode. So in normal mode, sometimes you hop into a game and you get knocked out at like number 70 or number 97. And you're like, damn it, I just spent all this time loading. But you just press and hold A and you're in the next game before you can even think about it. But in Invictus mode, the winner mode or whatever it is, that is not so great, because when you get in and you get knocked out very early on, it takes a little while longer to load, and half of the people end up being bots. So if I had one, like, that's the most minor of criticisms, because it's easily solved by just going back to normal mode and playing. So Tetris 99. If you like Tetris, you're going to like Tetris 99. If you have Nintendo Switch Online and you're not sure if you would like Tetris 99, it's free. Just get it. Just download it. It's free. What's it costing you besides time? And you got plenty of it. You're sitting here listening to this video, aren't you? Play Tetris 99 instead. My number 8 game of 2019 is a game, again, that I didn't finish because it's so fun, but it's so hard once you hit a certain point. It's Baba Is You. And Baba Is You, in case you haven't ever seen it, is a puzzle game where you basically... It's like the most basic principles of programming, where it's like X thing is Y. And like I guess the easiest way to describe it maybe is just like, you know, like you start out and it's like Baba is you. Flag is win. And the goal is that you have to get Baba to the flag, because you're Baba, so you have control of it, and you need to get to the flag, which is the win condition. But then as you go on and on, you get more and more things. Like you find out you can switch it. Like maybe Baba isn't you. Maybe the wall is you. Or maybe water is you. Or maybe the water is block, so you can't get past it. Or maybe the wall is push, so you can move the wall around to get to where you need to go. All these little things start piling up, which is why I didn't finish the game. Because eventually you get to these levels where they are so hard. The other caveat I should say, I do a Twitch stream, and I was streaming this game, and it got to a point where I felt like it was not a good viewing experience for me to be playing this game on stream, because I just had to sit there and stare at it, and I was trying the same thing over and over and over again, and it was like, well, this isn't fun to watch me sit here and be an idiot. So that's why I stopped. But when I loaded it up to record footage for this video, and I was immediately like, oh, I want to play this again. So it's a great game. And don't let what I say is the difficulty discourage you, because if you're willing to take the time and sit down and really mess with it and try things out, you're going to figure out where you're stuck. And there's always, for the most part, you can always like you do one level, it opens up 2 more. So if you get stuck on one, you can just go do the other, and so on and so on. So I just think it's such a good idea for a game. It's almost like an educational type game as well. I think it's a great idea. It's unique. It's low like resource. It's not resource heavy, so you could play it on anything. I have it on the computer, but I believe it's on the Switch as well. Probably on PlayStation. I didn't look up what any game was on. I'm sorry. I'm ill prepared to be making this video, but it's a really fun game. I would recommend it if you like puzzle games, if you like word games, if you're just looking for a unique experience. I think it's great, and I think it deserves a lot of praise, and that is why it's my number 8 game of 2019. My number 7 game of 2019 is a game that I spent probably like a day straight playing. It's Forager. And in case you haven't seen Forager is... it's just a little like survival collection building type game, and you're just this cute little bunny looking thing, and you are on an island. It starts off, you're on one island, and you just have rocks and trees and some ore, and you just collect things, and then you build things out of the things you collect, and then you unlock skills when you level up. And progressively, you have more and more things to collect, you have more and more things to build, you have more and more skills to unlock, and it just exponentially gets larger, larger, larger. You could buy more land up until you completely max out the map, and it's so addicting. I cannot emphasize to you how addicting this game was when I was playing it. Like, when I launched it to record footage for this video, I looked down and I had been playing for 30 minutes and I was like, oh no. I was only supposed to record like 15 minutes worth of stuff. It's so fun. It's a very simple concept. I don't know how else I could really describe it to you. There are some dungeons that you run into along the way, and there's little puzzles on certain sections of the map as well that you can do. But it's really fun. From my understanding, there's a lot of games that are probably like this, but I don't know, the aesthetic for this one and the pace of it, I had a great time with it. And when I launched it, I didn't realize that they had done like a major patch, because one of my criticisms at first was that it's a little on the easy side, and once you get into the late game, you can see there's a part where it's like, well, I guess I'm done, because you have everything unlocked and there's certain things you can set to automate your tasks, and you end up where you're just not doing anything anymore, and everything is being done for you, and it's like, okay, well, now what? But they always had the challenge island, where the challenge is like you do everything on one island, but now I noticed there's a hard mode as well, which is great. And they made it so you can pin things to like your bar at the bottom. It looks like there's a lot of changes, which to me means maybe I need to spend another 12 hours straight doing nothing but playing Forager. So if I disappear off the face of the earth after this video's uploaded, I might be playing Forager. Check my Steam. But it's a great game. It's really fun. I highly recommend. My number 6 game of 2019 is yet another free game, which I'm a sucker for. It's Apex Legends. So Apex Legends is a free game, another battle royale. This was the year of free battle royale games that I loved, I suppose. And it's a first-person shooter made by the people that made Titanfall. Respawn, you know those people. So you can slide, which is very important and fun. But I really like battle royale first-person shooter type games. I was never into Fortnite. That wasn't my jam, but I was very into PUBG, and I was down to try. I was even going to probably hit that Call of Duty game just because it had battle royale, but then Apex Legends came out and it saved my butt, and I didn't have to try it, and instead I got to play Apex Legends, which is free. There are lots of cosmetics and stuff you can get you can pay for loot boxes and things like that, but they're all cosmetic. And, well, to be fair, you do have to pay to unlock characters, but it's with credits you can earn. And with what I've played, and I play a very casual amount, I'm not dedicating my life to this game by any means, and I've been able to unlock 3 of the 4 unlockable characters. So I think it's pretty reasonable, especially for a free game. Some people got very upset with some of their updates and patches and things like that, but I haven't ever thought that anything they've done is egregious. I think it's a very fun game. If I had to throw out a criticism of it, it would be that I play by myself a lot, and it's not necessarily the most friendly to play as a solo queuer, because you often get stuck in with randos who, the second they get downed, they just disconnect, and then you can't do anything. You're stuck, and you and your other random person, if they happen to stick around, are now at a disadvantage. But I think that the developers, if there's something really they could do to prevent that without making it an unenjoyable experience. Like, think about Overwatch. Overwatch has done the best they can to prevent similar problems from happening, but at the expense of sometimes punishing people who have internet outages or computer crashes or things that were outside of their control. So I think it's kind of a delicate balance, and it's a tough thing. So I don't really blame them that they haven't had a foolproof solution for this problem yet. But again, it's a nitpick. I don't think it takes away from the experience too much. I like to play, in case you're curious, I'm sure you were, I like to play Pathfinder, I like to play Mirage, and I like to play Octane. Those are my 3 favorites, because I love mobility. I love Fast Boys. I used to love playing Scout and TF2. All that. I just love jumping around. It's so fun. So Apex Legends is my number 6. I feel like I kind of brought up Apex Legends and how much I liked it, and then kind of shit on it. But I love it. It's such a fun game. They're constantly looking for ways to balance it, I feel like. And I like the new map, which I know a lot of people, it was controversial when it came out, but I think it's important that they shake up the map and not really give you the option to just play the old map, because look at what happened with PUBG. They put out a new map and then gave you the option to play the old map, and everyone was like, nah, fuck this new map. I'm just going to play the old map. And that's all they did. And then nobody gave the new maps a chance. So I respect their decision. I respect that I can slide down hills in this game. Oh, and they added a training range, which is awesome, which is something that every game like that should have. So you can mess around with all the add-ons for your guns, for your gains, when you get real buff. You can mess around with everything, all the guns. It's great. It's just, I don't know. For a free game, I feel like that's way more support than we are due. And maybe it's because I'm a boomer. I don't know. I'm not a boomer. I feel gross for even saying that. I'm sorry. Maybe it's because I'm older that I feel like a free game I'm not really owed that much by a free game. But I don't know. Apex Legends, it's great. Play it. It's free. My number 5 game of 2019 is Fire Emblem Three Houses. So, for some background, I have only ever played Fire Emblem Awakening besides Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's my only other Fire Emblem game. And I was very, very unsure about Three Houses. So I asked for it as a gift, thinking that I would like it, and, probably get about halfway through it and then forget about it. I loved Three Houses. It just so happened that I was super sick around the time that I was playing it, so I had plenty of time to play it because I wasn't doing anything besides sitting on the couch, blowing my nose constantly, and Fire Emblem got me through it like a champ. So I know that if Fire Emblem Three Houses seems to be a bit of a controversial change for the franchise, or that's the vibe that I get from people, but for someone who's not as tied to the franchise, I thought it was great. I love in Persona games the relationship building part of the game, and I love that in Danganronpa. Any game that has the opportunity for me to chit chat with the side characters and build relationships, and they get to choose to date one of them. I love it. I love it so much. It's the stupidest thing, and I have so much fun with it. In Fire Emblem, you can take these people on weird tea dates that you can have tea parties with them, and they're bizarre and they're difficult, and then you can pet their face if it goes well. It's a whole thing. It's awful. But I love it. I love it so much. So for Fire Emblem, just some info. I played the Blue Lion's house, and when I was recording gameplay for this video, I was sucked back into where I was like, man, I want to do another run of this game, because there are 3 different paths you can take to play the game, and I only played one. If I had to say something about it, I would say that specifically with the Blue Lions storyline, I can't speak to how the other storylines are. There's some gaps in information that seem like they're left there specifically so that you play the other storylines, and I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't necessarily like being strong-armed into missing information. Kind of like when you think about, I don't know how many of you guys played the last Arkham game, Arkham Knight, but when you got to the end of Arkham Knight, it gave you almost the ending of the game, and then it was like, hey, if you want the real ending to the game, go get every single Riddler trophy. And then it flipped me off, metaphorically. And you know what I did instead? I just went and YouTubed it. I YouTubed the ending. And that's the same thing that I did with Fire Emblem after the ending that I got happened. I was like, well, what about this thing? And what about that thing? And I just looked them up on the internet. Because to me, I spent a lot of time, I think 60 hours or so, playing this game, and for me to not get all the answers and be told that I need to go then put in another 60 hours was kind of discouraging. But I understand that it's also replayability and there's I don't know. It's again, I know that I'm kind of playing devil's advocate on a lot of these things here, but it is a delicate balance. I get it. I get kind of being like, well, what's the point of playing through every storyline if you're just going to get the same information each time? Because you can recruit people from other houses, so it doesn't really matter in that sense which house you pick. So there does need to be a reason for each house you pick. So I get it. But it was super fun. It was very addicting. I love the fishing minigame. I would go at the start of every month. I would go to the shop and I would buy every piece of bait. And then I would look around and I would get every piece of bait that was free on the ground. And I would fish for like 40 minutes and use up every piece of bait that I had. I love the fishing minigame. I love fishing. I'm trying to think of, and I married Felix, in case you were curious. That was my romance, was young Felix. There's a lot that I would like to say about this game that I feel like comes with big spoilers. So if you have any questions about my opinion on Three Houses in more depth, you can feel free to hit me up either on Discord or Twitter or wherever, and we can talk spoilers. But I liked Fire Emblem a ton. I am drawn back into where I do want to play another storyline, and I probably will pretty soon. So Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Three Kisses, mwah, mwah, mwah. My number 4 game of 2019 is Slay the Spire. And Slay the Spire is the game that I was talking about when I said I know that this game technically didn't come out in 2019, but officially it came out in 2019. If you look up its release date, it will now say 2019 because it's officially out, baby. And I held off on Slay the Spire for a while. I would watch people stream it, and I thought that it looked like a really fun game, but I never quite wanted to pull the trigger on paying for it. And then Xbox Game Pass came out, where the Microsoft Game Pass for PC, and it was one of the games in there, and I played it, and I had so much fun in my first run of it. I was like, I don't want to risk the fact that I could maybe get really invested in this game, and then it goes off Game Pass, or I cancel Game Pass, and then I lose all my data from it. So I played it for like an hour for free, and then I went out and paid for it immediately on Steam, because I was just like, I want this. I want the full experience. I want no chance that I'm ever going to lose it, and I had a great time. It's a roguelike deck builder. So you have 3 characters to choose from. You start with just the one, and each character plays a little bit different than the other. So your first character is pretty basic. You just have your basics, attacks and defenses and skills. And then the second one it requires a little more strategy. And then the third one adds like a whole nother layer where you have these orbs that you can charge, and they do separate things. And it's just a lot of fun. It's hard. I feel like it's hard to describe, because when you describe it, it sounds kind of boring, because it's like, yeah, you're playing with cards. But I don't know. It's really good. There's like 4 types of squares you can run into. There's like just your normal enemy encounter. There's an elite enemy encounter. There's the question marks, which I can never pass up, ever. I can't ever pass up the question marks. Sometimes you get like a good benefit. Sometimes something bad happens. Sometimes you run into an enemy. Sometimes it's a shop. You never know. You never know what you're gonna get. And then there's chests. There's shops, and then there's bosses. And I got so close. I've never actually beaten it. I thought that it was just kind of endless, to be honest. I was telling someone how I had never beaten it, and I told them how far I had gotten, which I can't remember now. I want to say I got to the end of Act 3, but wherever it was that I told them I had gotten to and then died, they were like, oh, you had almost won. And I've never been more devastated in my life than to hear that I had almost beaten Slay the Spire for one time and then blew it. I blew it big time. So it's really, I think it's worth a try. If you have Game Pass, again, it's on there as one of the included games. So give it a shot and then pay money for it. I believe it goes on sale during the Steam sales often. So I cannot sing the praises of this game enough. Oh, and you know who else would sing the praises of this game? The guy on my flight to Long Beach who sat in the middle seat and spread his legs as far as possible so that he could lean down in between his legs and hover hunchback so he could play Slay the Spire for the full hour of the flight without putting the switch away for takeoff or landing, or moving his legs so that me or the other woman could have any space. But hey, that's just that's just me being stupid. Slay the Spire, number 4 game of 2019, baby. My number 3 game of 2019 is Devil May Cry 5. And if you've seen other videos on this channel, you might know that I recently played all the Devil May Cry games for the first time, and I was so bad at them. I was awful. Those videos, people hate those videos. People hate those gameplays. And I understand. Now that I understand how to play it better, I understand why it upsets them. I'm not good at Devil May Cry, and I don't claim to be now, but I understand it better now. Somewhere near the end of Devil May Cry 4, it clicked with me. The way to play these games finally clicked, and I was able to grasp it, and I got most of the hang of it. And it was just in time for Devil May Cry 5, which is the reason I started to play all the games is because I saw the announcement video for Devil May Cry 5, and I liked Devil Trigger so much, the song, that I was like, hey, I'm going to check out these games. I'm going to play these games. And I'm so glad that I did because they're so silly. They're in on themselves, and they have awful, great butt metal soundtracks, and they have nonsensical storylines that my friends have to help me understand. But the combat is so fun. And the great thing about Devil May Cry 5 is you get to play 3 different ways that are all fun, except for maybe, I guess V is still fun, but he's not the most fun. But you know what makes up for V not being the most fun is that he can fucking skateboard on darkness. How cool is that? That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. No need to answer the question, because I answered it for you. It's the coolest thing I've ever seen. So Devil May Cry 5, it's a full-blown, silly, fun action game. I am glad that I beat it, and I beat it on normal mode. I didn't have to put it on easy baby mode like I had to with Devil May Cry 3. I was able to play it on the normal settings, and I even got some triple S's. I got some smoking sexy styles, which I'm very proud of, I'll have you know. And it was a fun time. I had so much fun with it. So I streamed it when I played it, and I had so much fun that after the fact, I went ahead and cranked the difficulty up, and I played a little bit on the next difficulty level, and I was happy that I got decent. It seemed doable. I feel like I could play on the next difficulty level up now, which is a big improvement, because if you would have this time last year had me try it, I would have gotten mad and not been able to do it, and would have gotten my ass kicked. So Devil May Cry, I have had a good time with, because I feel like the series as a whole has helped me get better at video games and understand like the patience of actually inputting combos and not just rushing along and trying to do the same thing over and over again. And understanding the way that those things work has now opened me up to like a whole genre of games, and it's a lot of fun. So thank you, Devil May Cry. Thank you so much. And thank you for having the most awesome theme song ever in Devil Trigger, which is full-blown, silly, and excellent, and I love it. My number 2 game of 2019 just squeaked in because I didn't play it until like a week ago, but it's Katana Zero. I love Katana Zero. I understand that I guess it was a Newgrounds game first for free, just on like as a flash game, which I didn't even know new games went up on Newgrounds anymore, so that blew my mind. But Katana Zero is, again, I haven't played Hotline Miami, but everybody told me that it works the same way as Hotline Miami, where basically you have to clear a room of enemies without dying or making a mistake, or else you reset the room. And I can't necessarily describe to you why this is, but the game just feels good to play. Like when you are doing well, it feels so good. And then even when you lose, the reset, the death noise is not annoying, and the reset process isn't annoying. You're just like, dang, I messed up. Time to try again. Like it seems like the type of game that should make me rage, and it didn't make me rage at all. I thought it was so much fun. The storyline was really cool, albeit maybe a little bit predictable, but for the type of game that it is, I wasn't expecting a masterpiece, an opera to go along with it. It has a wonderful soundtrack. I would just leave the menu music up sometimes just to listen to it. I love the menu music. I love all the music. If there's a vinyl of Katana Zero out or coming out, I will buy it in a split second. It's such a fun game. It has such a good soundtrack. It's pretty cheap too. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but if you enjoy that type of game, I would recommend it. There's really only like a couple buttons. You have your katana, you have your throwables, you have your jump, and you have a roll. And also you can slow down time, but I didn't use that feature too often, mostly because I'm like real good. But P.S. What I really mean is I forgot about that feature. So it's like I said, it's hard to describe because for me it was just a feeling. Like the way that the game flows, it felt really good. The enemies are all for me perfectly spaced in all the levels because it's such a nice progression. And there's different, as you get later in the game, there's different ways you can go about completing certain levels. It is an awesome time. And then after you beat it, there's an even harder mode, which I didn't realize. I didn't realize I was playing on normal mode. I thought that it was just like one size fits all. So now the game challenged me. I got to try hard mode. And there's also a speed run mode that it unlocks, which is pretty cool. I think it's cool that it has like an internal speed mode or speed run mode built in. That's pretty awesome. I don't know what else I could say about Katana Zero. I don't think I have any critiques for it. I thought it was a great game from start to finish, and it was a tough call between this game and the game that I picked for my number one. Speaking of my number one, before we get to it, I wanted to just mention a couple of honorable mentions real quick that didn't quite make it into the top 10, but were very close, and maybe tell you why they didn't. Starting with Dragon Quest Builders 2, which I loved. I do love Dragon Quest Builders 2. I just didn't play it as much as I meant to because I don't know. I just didn't get around to it, but it's really fun, and I wish I did spend more time with it because it's a great game, and I'm excited for it to come out to PC. Maybe I will spend more time with it then. The other one that was almost in the top 10, Dicey Dungeons, another roguelike deck builder. Surprise! Where you are dice and you roll the dice to do certain attacks, you get certain gear. It's a really fun game. I didn't want my whole list to be roguelike deck builders, I'm sorry. Because one of my other honorable mentions was also Void Bastards, which I had at number 10 and then I swapped out for Cadence of Hyrule. Void Bastards is a roguelike first-person shooter where basically the character that you are is randomized and the levels that you go to are randomized, and there's a lot of loot involved. It's a lot of fun, but I felt like sometimes the character stuff is a little imbalanced where like sometimes you get a character and they have no flaws, and sometimes you get a character where they have like 2 flaws, and one of them is that they take the wrong gun with them half the time, which is like half the battle in the game. So I feel like Void Bastards has some balance issues that kept it out of the top 10 for me. And the last honorable mention was Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove. I loved Toe Jam and Earl when I was a little kid. I was very excited for Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove to come out, and it met all my expectations, and it was a lot of fun, and it looks really nice. It's really cool that like you're on one level and you can see the level below you that you were just on from it through the ground. It's really cool. But like I said, it met all my expectations. It didn't really exceed them, which is why I left it just off the top 10. But it's still a great game, and I would recommend it if you like Toe Jam and Earl. It's a hard game to describe. So if you think you might like Toe Jam and Earl, just try it. Just try it out. You'll see. And without further ado, my number one game of 2019 was Resident Evil 2 Remake. And again, I feel like it's important for me to note here that the only other Resident Evil game I'd played before is the one where he punches the boulder, which I think is 5. And from my understanding, everybody told me that whichever one it is that I had played, I'm sorry if I said the wrong one, but whichever one it was I had played is apparently like one of the worst ones to play as a representative of the series. So I had never played any other one because I was a scaredy cat, and I also didn't have a PlayStation 1. So my parents didn't let me really get those types of games because I was a big chicken. So this was my first real experience with Resident Evil, and it was a great experience. Like, I was blown away by how fun this game was, and it made me yell a lot. I'm sure my neighbors probably got sick of hearing a lot of like yelling through the wall, but it was like it got me. It wasn't scary where I was like, oh, I don't want to play it, but it jump scared me a lot, and it stressed me out in a fun way. Kind of like going to a haunted house stresses you out in a fun way, where you know something is going to happen, but you're not exactly sure from where. It was just a lot of that going on. And I liked it so much that after I finished it, I did both. I did the first run, and then I did the new game with the set where you do. So like when you play it, you play through the first storyline with whichever character you select. And then when you go to do the second storyline, you get like a supplemental story, which is to harken back to my issue with Fire Emblem Three Houses. I feel like that's something that it would be nice if that game did, where you just got to play like a supplemental story, so you don't have to backtrack over everything you've already done. And I thought that was a really cool feature. I don't know if that's in the original Resident Evil 2, so I could be impressed by things that are a decade old, but either way, I am impressed. So I really liked that. The gunplay feels really good. The movement feels really good. The engine that it runs on is beautiful, and I didn't have any issues with crashing or lag or anything like that. I played it on PC, and it ran great. Mr. X is terrifying in all the best ways. You can shoot his hat off, which is amazing. I played Fourth Survivor, and I beat it, and then I tried Tofu Survivor, and I did not beat it, but I love the fact that Tofu Survivor existed. It's just a very good, well-rounded game, especially for something that it is technically a remake, but it's not a remake in the way that, like, you know, Final Fantasy X was remade with textures, but it's still fundamentally the same game. Or it's more of like how Final Fantasy VII is being remade, where they were like, we remade this game for you. Like, here it is. It's a new game. And I thought it seemed like it really seemed like a labor of love. And I felt like Capcom was on fire this year with treating their fans well. And that's coming from someone who, like, it's not that I ever disliked Capcom, but I didn't have any affinity towards any of their franchises. And I'm leaving this year with 2 of their games in my top 10, and they've earned a fan out of me. Not that I was some sort of unattainable target. I like pretty much most video games, but, you know, I can call myself probably a Capcom fangirl now because of this. So Resident Evil 2 Remake ended up being my number 1. I had a lot of fun with it. It scared me. It made me yell. It stressed me out. And it was an overall good time. So overall, I felt like this year had a lot of really good games. I'm sorry that I couldn't put every game in my top 10 that I played, except for Kingdom Hearts 3. It knows what it did. But overall, there were tons of really good games. I had to make some tough choices. There's a lot of fun stuff out there to play, and I'm interested to hear everybody else's top 10s as they come out. I know that it's a little bit before the end of the year, but I looked at the release schedule, and I don't think there's anything else coming out that would really crack my top 10 that I haven't already played, or things that I would maybe plan to play that would make their way in there. So I felt pretty comfortable with the top 10 I have, but I'm sure I'll change my mind in a week. If you have any opinions on my top 10, definitely let me know. I'm happy to hear them. I won't delete them, I swear. I might just mutter under my breath at you, but I had a lot of fun making this. Trust me, I did. I'm not lying. I'm not being held at gunpoint. This was fun. This was fun, right? Again, like I said, my first time recording something specifically for YouTube, so I know that I'm a little more rambly than your typical YouTube video tends to be, so I'll try to work on that. But hey, thank you for listening anyway. If you got this far, I really appreciate it, and I will see you next year for my 2020 top 10. Oh my god, 2020. Oh god. We're into the next decade. I gotta go. I gotta go have an existential crisis. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Bye.